Alright, let's get this done. There's so much going on right now. It's storming outside. I had a few drinks. It's been a week. So, what better time than to record? Yeah, that's the opening. Kanchu, knock it off.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Will, and I am here to do my spoiler review. That's right, spoilers incoming for episode 3 of Marvel's Moon Knight. This episode is titled The Friendly Type, I believe. I took notes. Here we go. It's going off the rails, isn't it? Yeah, The Friendly Type. That's the name of the episode. This is a spoiler review, as all of these episode reviews have been. So if you have not watched episode 3 of Moon Knight, make sure that you pause this video or just like it, maybe share it around, and subscribe to the channel. All those admin stuff. Check out the episode and come back and hear my thoughts on it, because I'm going to talk about some of the spoilery goodness in the episode. This episode is mainly focused on Mark Spector for a change. The first 2 episodes of the series have been mainly focused on Stephen Grant and his coming to terms with his dissociative identity disorder and coming to terms that he is one of a number of alters inhabiting the body, with the main protagonist of the series seeming to be Mark Spector, who is in Cairo after his altercation in London where he defeated a jackal! Yeah, where he defeated the jackal. It's a jackal. It's not a hard thing to say. He is in Cairo looking for the whereabouts of Arthur Harrow, that he is on the search for Amut's tomb in order to release Amut on the world. So Mark is hunting some people, chasing down some thugs, some people who are loyal to Arthur Harrow, and at the same token still dealing with Steven inside of his head, trying to keep him from going all ape shit like he typically does. And we get to see in this episode, we get to see it from the alternate perspective of Mark being the one who suffers the blackouts when Steven takes over. Or so we think, because it seems like there is another presence inside of Mark Spector's body who both Steven and Mark are unaware of at this point, because in one of the blackouts during the opening chase/fight sequence with the thugs, we see that Mark awakens to a bloody mess of him stabbing one of the supposed suspects and wanting to blame Steven, but come on, this is Stephen Grant. We've seen him in the first 2 episodes. He's not capable of doing half of the stuff. And Steven fervently denies that that was him, and so now we are left wondering who is the one who actually caused this sort of chaos and destruction, and if it actually was Mark Spector all along. It was Mark Spector all along. I've had a few. We also get the meeting of the gods / other avatars of the gods, where Kanchu needs to convince them that Arthur Harrow is up to no good, but also puts Kanchu in the line of getting sealed away because he's already been banished. That's the next step, is being sealed in kind of a tiny little statue, which is epic foreshadowing for the end of the episode. I really liked the opening sequence with getting the action from Mark's perspective. Also, I'm glad that Steven is now much more of a presence than just a background character, and he actually becomes important later in the episode in order to locate Amut's tomb with a little help from Kanchu as well, which was a really nice sequence, but we'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk about the meeting of the gods and the accusal of Harrow by Kanchu, who possesses Mark's body during the supposed trial. And it's a really interesting thing. We get to see some of the other gods, mostly Osiris, Horus, I'm going to screw up names, Tenet, something, and Hathor, who we get an introduction to Hathor's avatar, Yahtzee. Sorry. Fuck me. It's raining outside too. I gotta say, Oscar Isaac has been doing a fantastic job in this series, being able to juggle and balance all these different personalities and his performances, going from the timid Steven who doesn't want to hurt a fly to this, mercenary Mark Spector, who is more so closer to, I guess, Oscar Isaac's actual normal speaking voice and just persona, to acting as Kanchu when Kanchu's possessing his body, yelling at everybody, trying to convince these other gods that, Haro is the bad guy. But these gods have, decided to not abandon humanity, but left this plane of existence, leaving their avatars there mainly for observation. And of course that doesn't sit well with Kanchu, because Kanchu is very much hands-on. And it makes it hard with the way that we've seen Kanchu presented in these last few episodes. It really makes it kind of hard to believe that Kanchu is a good god. I mean, he obviously does not want Amu to be resurrected for obvious reasons. Some not so obvious, based off of if you believe Arthur Harrow. And Ethan Hawke's portrayal of Arthur Harrow has been fantastic. I think he is this calm, menacing, yet charming type of villain, very much like a David Koresh or like a cult leader, and he pulls it off very well. I mean, there are moments where you do question what he's saying, or if he's just using baggage that all of these characters have against each other to get what he wants. And a lot of that is trauma that he experienced from Kanchu. So Kanchu is primarily the one responsible for pretty much everything that's happening. It's very reminiscent of Mark's position, where he is trying to protect people or trying to fix things because of his own actions as well. I mean, case in point, the relationship between him and Lila, who Lila returns in this episode, meeting him in Cairo basically after Mark pretty much ghosted her. Not by choice. I mean, Kanchu just grabbed him and took off basically, but you can tell his actions are basically meant to try to protect her, not only from getting hurt, but getting wrapped up in Kanchu, because even Mark doesn't really trust Kanchu. And that's one thing I find it interesting how the episode progresses as we get towards the end with Kanchu's inevitable sealing away. So in order to get the god's attention to begin with, Kanchu basically manipulated the moon to cause an eclipse, which angered the gods because Kanchu is constantly using his godlike powers with the threat of exposing them. So that was one of the reasons why Kanchu was banished in the first place. After Layla and Mark reunite, they have to locate the sarcophagus of Senfu, who that name was given to Mark by Yahtzee after the gods basically rolled out from the meeting. But yeah, it's someone who documented where Amun's tomb was. God, these names are killing me. Sorry about that. I'm trying my hardest. But I hope I'm doing fine. Let me know in the comments down below how I'm doing. But they locate the sarcophagus in the ownership of a character named
5 minutes later.
Mogart. Character named Mogart. He is a collector, antiquity collector, which a lot of characters in. But they go to this person to try to get eyes on the sarcophagus, try to locate Amun's tomb using the sarcophagus. And this is also an interesting thing as well, where I briefly mentioned before we get back to it that, Kanchu needed Steven's help in order to change the sky in order to give them a shot of locating Amun's tomb, which inevitably leads to his sealing. But we also get more of Steven and Mark starting to work together, not be as combative with each other. Case in point, Steven is the more intelligent of the two. Not saying Mark is stupid, but he's the one who is more abreast of Egyptian hieroglyphics, just history in general, whereas Mark is the muscle. He's the one who usually dons the MoonKnight suit in order to be the fist of Kanchu, which we get to see in this episode once things go south. Case in point, because Mark is Mark. So they both have elements that I feel like by the end of the season, they're going to have to learn to balance each other to be a whole person, even though they have their own personalities. And they'll probably find some way to work through that That plus whatever other alters or personalities or presence inhabit his body that neither one of them are clearly aware of. So once they locate the star chart and figure it out, this is where Kanchu comes in and basically assists Steven in reversing the skyline in order to put the stars where they were 2,000 years ago. This act, of course, is not something that is subtle. Everyone sees it, and is clearly pushed the god's hand in order to seal Kanchu away. So by the end of the episode, Kanchu is sealed away, but not before him and Steven, who is in his Mr. Knight suit at the time, are able to reverse the sky long enough for Layla to get the coordinates for Ahmed's tomb. So that's where the episode basically ends, with a brief monologuing, a villain monologue from Arthur Harrow when he returns to the pyramid where they have sealed Kanchu, and basically admits that, yeah, everything I'm doing is because of you. Your abuse, your trauma is the key to my victory. And that's where the episode ends. And a little tidbit too, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, and I didn't notice it in the first 2 episodes, but the moon that's in the credits of each episode, it's showing the different phases of the moon. So I believe by the 6th and final episode, we're going to get a full moon, which is actually going to be kind of neat. So overall, I really like that sort of little touch of the episode. There was a lot in this episode. We got introduced to a lot of the different gods, which is something that we don't usually get. I mean, before this, the most god stuff we've gotten is from the Norse mythology with Thor and Odin and Loki. So this is an interesting take of getting more variations of gods in the MCU, and how the decision for them to not be, hands-on is very reminiscent of how the Eternals were during their movie. But that sort of stepping away is clearly allowing a person like Arthur Harrow to pull the wool over their eyes, to fly under their radar, and to set up the resurrection of a very powerful god that is going to take much more than I think Mark Spector and Stephen Grant and Kanchu will be able to do on their own. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from this as we start to get to the second half of this 6-part series. Again, I'm really liking the series. I love how we play with the perspectives. I was very glad that this episode did primarily focus on Mark, so we got a little bit more understanding of his personality. And we're also starting to see a little bit more of Layla and how she is responding to not only Mark, but to Steven. She clearly has baggage with Mark, but she seems to find some sort of attraction or comfort in Steven, which is going to be interesting to see how they learn to balance this, as we move closer and closer to the end of the season. We also get a different dynamic now with Mark and Steven not having the power of Kanchu anymore, with Kanchu being sealed away. It's going to be interesting to see how they will eventually free him, because I don't see this series not having, Mark Spector don the iconic suit, beyond this point. We're only halfway through the season. What other personality is there inside Mark Spector? Who is the one that is much more brutal than Mark? And having this episode focus on Mark, we get to see that Mark is not necessarily the brutal killer that we are led to believe in the first 2 episodes. And it seems like as Steven and Mark learn to coexist a little bit more, they're probably going to have to put their differences aside to try to come to terms with whatever other alter exists inside their body. It was interesting to see some of the other avatars. While Yahtzee is the only one that we were introduced to, primarily in her actual human form, we do get more of the actual god interaction. I'm curious to see if we're going to see any more of these gods make a presence. And I wasn't sure. I saw the cat god, that one of the statues, was that supposed to be Bast from Wakanda, from Black Panther? Was that supposed to be that particular god? I'm very curious. I thought I was confused by that a little bit, but there's a few shots in the episode where it kind of jumps around, and while I like that when we're dealing with Steven and Mark's, fractured psyche, basically. It seemed kind of off during the one fight scene, but the fight choreography during the arena battle between Moon Knight and the other thugs was actually cool. We got a name drop from Madripoor, which was the place that they went to in Falcon and Winter Soldier where they found Sharon Carter. So it's nice to see a little bit of continuity, but I don't have an issue with the series being relatively separate. The whole sky manipulation thing that Kanchu and Steven did towards the end of the episode was probably my favorite scene. It was very visually stunning. And you got to think about it. If that affected the entire sky, and they're living in a world basically where people were blipped out of existence for 5 years, and giant red celestials popped up in the sky out of the blue. You know, people. I feel bad. People were probably like loaded on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication if you live in this world because you don't know what's going to happen next. And I find it surprising and shocking and just completely entertaining too. There's also some allusion too that Mark is somehow tied to the death of Layla's father, who was an archaeologist. And they did tease that Mark Spector was responsible for killing a group of archaeologists in episode 2. So I'm wondering if that reveal is going to be the final nail in the coffin between Layla and Mark, but then how does Layla balance her feelings that she seems to be exhibiting for Steven? It's very confusing, especially with so many different personalities, but I do think the series is handling pretty well. I will give the series one little knock, and that was from something that Kevin Feige has said when they were like, they weren't pulling any punches in this series, and this was going to be a really dark series. So far, it hasn't felt super dark. This isn't like Netflix versions of dark. This is slightly darker than what we've gotten from any other series on Disney Plus right now. There is more like blood and violence, but I think they're kind of being cheeky about it because a lot of that stuff happens in the episodes when we're switching between the different personalities. And I was just like, Y'all wanted to play that game. That's cool. It's not really false advertisement, but sure, why not? But I think there's enough good things in the series, and there's enough like comedy and character work in the series that really does not make that an issue for me. But this episode really had a lot of reveals. We got the reveals of more of the gods, more of their alters and representatives. We see that Arthur is closer and closer to releasing Amu, and now with Kanchu sealed away, what are they going to do? So it's going to be exciting next 3 episodes. I'm looking forward to it. Apologies if I seem low energy. Again, I had some drinks, and something about whiskey will make a brother tired. So, and also it's raining, and it's just like it's been a week too. Overall, that is just my general thoughts on episode 3 of Moon Knight. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I am very much still enjoying the series. I think from a visual standpoint, it's definitely one of the stronger series. It's up there with like Loki and WandaVision for me for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, thanks so much for watching this and all of my videos. I really do appreciate it. It has been a heavy travel week for me. It's going to be that way for a little bit. I'm hoping to keep up with schedules and things like that with these videos. So thank you so much for sticking with me through all of this and subscribing to the channel. Again, if you're new, I do reviews and reactions and discussions, and I drink and I game, but it's usually all wrapped around geekiness. So if that's your bag, subscribe to the channel. If you are subscribed, I appreciate you so much for subscribing. Feel free to share this around with people too. God, I look so tired. But yeah, feel free to share this around the internet, just, let people know what I do and, all that fun jazz. But you can follow me on a lot of different social media platforms listed at the end of this video. I've got a ton of videos on the channel that you're more than welcome to check out. Like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as always, until next time, I will catch you later. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you did like this video, why not give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends? You can subscribe to the channel by clicking on my gorgeous little face right over there. You can follow me on all the various social media platforms right below. And last but certainly not least, if you've got a few extra minutes, why not check out one of the lovely videos floating right over here. Later.